Back and thank you for returning. We left off in the book of Genesis chapter 30, verse 1 through 13, and we're going to continue in the book of Genesis chapter 30, verse 14, all the way to the end of chapter 30. But before we continue, I want to talk about this rivalry between Leah and Rachel. Now, Leah and Rachel are sisters, and they also are the wives of Jacob. And now this rivalry that has been going on between these two has intensified. And let's talk about what started it right quick. Leah is not the wife that Jacob wanted. He wanted Rachel, but he ended up having Leah as a wife. And so Leah had 4 boys by Jacob. And that made Rachel kind of feel out, left out. She kind of feel useless at this point. And so she gets angry. She started this argument with Jacob, and Jacob didn't want to hear none of this. He argued back with her and went on by his way. And we seen that in the previous episode. And so what Rachel does is she responds to Leah having these 4 sons by Jacob by taking her handmaiden Bella and told Jacob to go into her handmaid and bear sons or bear children for her. And that's exactly what happened. Jacob went into Bella, Rachel's handmaid, and bare 2 sons for Rachel. Now, Rachel feel like she's back in this war right now. She feel like now that she can compete. And so what happened? Well, Leah gets her revenge. And what she does is that she saw that she's not having any kids anymore. She saw that at this point, after having these 4 boys, she went barren. So what she does, she takes her handmaiden and she gives her handmaiden to Jacob as a wife. Okay. She didn't tell Jacob to go into my handmaid and bear more children for me. She said, no, this is going to be your wife, and I want you to bear children for me and her. And look right there. Rachel is back in the battle with her sister Leah, had made a new step. And guess what happened? Jacob did indeed have 2 more sons by his new wife, the handmaiden of Leah. So now what happened? Rachel responds to this. Okay. This battle is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Rachel responds to this by what she does is she tells Jacob to go and have more sons to Bilhah, my handmaiden. And so we see this battle going back and forth and back and forth. But let me say this. The Lord sees this battle between these 2 girls. He sees the battle between these 2 wives. He sees the sibling battle between these 2 women. And what do the Lord does? Well, he take advantage of this situation. Now, God is going to cause all this to work for the good of Jacob. You think Jacob believed that? No, Jacob is in a bad situation. He doesn't have any time for Rachel. He has no time for Leah. He has no time for Bella, Rachel handmaiden. He doesn't have no time at all for his new wife that is the handmaiden of Leah. He doesn't have time for none of that. Jacob has a lot of boys right now. Jacob has his hand full with the flocks of his uncle Laban. Jacob has his hand full with his own flocks. And Jacob is a busy man. And you think that all this is going on, this rivalry between these 2 sisters and his wives, and now he's dealing with the handmaidens of his wives, and then he's dealing with all these young boys, because all of them is under, not one of them are adults, all of them is probably under the age of 13 or 14, right? Because Jacob did not leave his uncle Laban's house for 20 years. He was there for 20 whole years. He didn't leave until then. But so we know that these boys are not even teenagers yet. And so he has his hand completely full, and he don't think this is a blessing at all. I guarantee if Jacob had an opportunity to change this entire situation, he would do it without thinking twice. But he doesn't have that opportunity, and he won't get that opportunity. But here comes the Lord. The Lord is going to use this entire thing to work for the good of Jacob. And poor old Jacob, he doesn't know that yet, because Jacob is not walking by faith. Jacob has faith. Jacob is a faithful person. He believes in God wholeheartedly. But what Jacob is doing is Jacob is not walking by faith. Jacob is trying to do things his way. And he's always been that kind of person. And it's going to be a long time before the Lord break him. And when the Lord break him, indeed, Jacob will be starting to walk by faith and not walking at all by sight. So let's get started. Genesis chapter 30, verse 14. And Reuben. Now, Reuben, this is Leah's firstborn son. He's the firstborn of Jacob, the first child that Jacob ever had. And this is by his wife, Leah. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them into his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Now this rivalry between Rachel and Leah is continually to go on. Look what happened right here. And Reuben went into the days of the wheat harvest and found some mandrakes. Now mandrakes comes from the family of these type of plants that can cause a woman to be fertile or cause a woman and a man to be more intimate, if you know what I mean. And so mandrakes is a way for intimacy to increase in fertility and to intimacy itself. It would be able to increase between a man and a woman. And guess what? Oh, Reuben had found some of these mandrakes. He wasn't out there looking for these mandrakes. He was out there in the wheat harvest and he found some of these mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother. He brought them to Leah. He said, listen, I found these mandrakes. They were valuable, obviously, because they were used for fertility. They were used for intimacy. They were used as an aphrodisiac back in those days, probably still today. And so when he brought them to his mother, Rachel found out. See, watch this. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Now, why do Leah want these mandrakes so bad? She wants these mandrakes because she knows the mandrakes is a quote unquote aphrodisiac. This mandrakes will increase the intimacy between Jacob and her, and the mandrakes will cause her to be more fertile. You got to remember that Rachel have not had any children at all. She's having kids by Bella, right? Her handmaiden Bella. That's how she's getting her kids now. But she herself have not bared any children at all. And so now she still wants to have children by Jacob. And so she found out that Reuben got some mandrakes, and she goes to Leah and say, I pray you, give me your son's mandrakes. Now look what Rachel does to get these mandrakes. But first, verse 15, and she said unto her, this is Leah, and Leah said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. I tell you, these two sisters are something else, isn't they? This rivalry is intense. This rivalry completely keep intensifying. There's a lot of bitterness between these two sisters. There's a lot of envying between these two sisters. And this rivalry is about as real as it gets. Look what Leah says right here. And Leah said unto her sister Rachel, it is a small matter that thou hast taken my husband. Look at Leah saying, she's saying, you taking my husband. Now that's actually not true. Rachel did not take Jacob from Leah. Jacob loved Rachel. As a matter of fact, he's spending all his time with Rachel. He's not spending any time at all with Leah. And Leah mentioned that in the previous episode, how she is hated by her husband. She had 4 sons by her husband, and old Jacob still doesn't spend any time with Leah. You got to remember that Jacob never wanted Leah to be his wife in the first place. Jacob loved Rachel, but not Leah. Leah's saying right now that Rachel has taken away her husband, right? And Rachel, probably agree with this because after all, these 2 women are Jacob's wives, and Leah it feels some kind of way because Jacob is spending all of his time with Rachel, and then Leah responded by, you taking my husband away. I have buried him 4 sons, and he's not spending any time with me because of you. You know, he doesn't spend any time with me because he doesn't love me like he loves you. Now, if Rachel wasn't in the way, what Leah's saying is that my husband would be with me, but because of you, Rachel, my sister, you have taken my husband away. This fight is continuing between these sisters. And what? And what if thou take away my son's mandrakes? Also, here she said, you already taken my husband away from me. Now you're going to take my son's mandrakes. Now, Rachel wants these mandrakes because Rachel knows the mandrakes is a quote unquote fertility drug, right? And Rachel said, and look how Rachel responds right here. And Rachel said, therefore, he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. Now, this is bad. I almost want to laugh because this is some humor here, because Jacob now is the poor old victim. Look what Rachel says right here. Rachel saying that he said, Jacob will lie with you tonight if you give me your son's mandrakes. And old Jacob, he's a victim here. He doesn't even understand what's going on between this rivalry. He's just trying to get his job done. He's trying to deal with his uncle Laban, and he has to continue to battle with these 2 wives. And I got news for you. Jacob is stuck in the middle, and Jacob, I'm sure, is feeling some kind of way. He doesn't know what to do. Poor Jacob is confused because look what Rachel did. She said, Jacob, you can go ahead and take Jacob and he'll lie with you tonight if you give me your son's mandrake. So Jacob here, he just going back and forth in this battle between these 2 wives and these 2 sisters, this rivalry. Man, Jacob is really getting in, isn't it? He's getting done in, isn't he? Now here it is right here, verse 16. Here comes Jacob. He's minding his own business. Watch this. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, thou must come unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. You see, Jacob, he's going back and forth with these women. He don't know what to do. He's confused, and he don't even have enough energy. He doesn't even have enough time to even deal with these women. He's still dealing with these boys, trying to train them how to be shepherds. And he also dealing with his uncle Laban, taking advantage of him. And then Jacob also has his own flocks to deal with. And so here it is, right here, verse 16. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening. And Jacob been working all day in the field, and here it is, it's nighttime. He's tired. He wants some rest. He just want to relax. He just burnt out by it at this point. Here it is at nighttime, way into the evening, and here's Leah coming to him saying, I bought you. You're going to lay with me tonight. I gave Rachel, I gave Rachel some mandrakes that my son found in the field. And she said, if I give her these mandrakes, that you're ordered to sleep with me or be with me tonight. And that's why she says right here, listen, look at what she says right here. Thou must come unto me, for surely I have hired thee. She has hired her husband, poor Jacob. She has hired her husband to sleep with her. Right? Isn't this crazy? But this is this rivalry that is going on between Rachel and Leah. And she said, listen, I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And Jacob, poor Jacob, he didn't want to argue. He didn't feel like fighting with her. He just said, okay, let's go. And what did Jacob do? Well, he lay with her that night. And so, I just want to say is that even though Jacob don't realize this, and he doesn't realize this at all, he doesn't even have time to even think about it, to be honest with you. But Jacob is going to be blessed by these rivalries between Leah and Rachel, because the Lord is going to cause all these things to work for the good of Jacob. And Jacob at this point doesn't recognize that at all. Jacob is trying to survive. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to survive, and he's caught in the middle of this battle between his wife Leah and his wife Rachel and his 2 handmaidens, Leah handmaiden and Rachel handmaiden. He's caught between all 4 of these women, and he has children by all 4 of these women. And all these children he has so far is all boys. But notice right here, Rachel was willing to do anything it takes to get those mandrakes so she can become fertile for Jacob. So she let Jacob go and be with Leah. And she made a trade, just like Jacob likes to trade. Now he's being traded, right? Jacob is a man, he loves to trade. You give him something, he'll give you something. You give him something, he'll give you something. We seen that in the beginning of Jacob, like between him and his what? And his brother Esau. And we seen that Jacob tried to make a trade with God himself, saying, if God would do this for me, and I do that for God. If God do this for me, I give God a tenth of this. If God do for me, then the God can be my Lord. We seen that in the previous episodes, how Jacob loves to trade. Jacob is not walking by faith at all. Jacob feel like he has to do something and make these things work for his benefit. And so just like Jacob loves to trade, guess what? We see right now his wife Rachel is trading him. She said, you give me some mandrakes. She told Leah, you give me some mandrakes and I give you my husband, Jacob. And old Jacob has been hired by his other wife, Leah. And so that Leah can spend some time with him. And Jacob did lay with Leah that night. And Rachel did what she made sure that she got her hands on those mandrakes. Because watch what happens now. Watch this right here. And Leah said, now, wait a minute, let's start right here. Yeah, here it is, verse 17. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God has given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. Right? Now look at here. Leah is now brought Jacob 5 sons. Remember in the previous episode, she had 4 sons by Jacob. And here it is, Leah. She has what? She had 5 sons right now. I think Rachel is saying, I caught on to what Leah was doing. She was eating these mandrakes, and that's why she was able to have all these children. And so poor Rachel, she was going to do everything she can to eat some mandrakes, right? And have some kids also by Jacob. And so we see right now, here it is, Issachar. This is another son of Jacob. And this is another son of Leah. And Leah has borne Jacob 5 sons. And like I said earlier, I want to keep repeating this. This is going to be a great blessing for Jacob. All these limited boys running around is not a blessing right now. These rivalries between his 2 wives is not a blessing at all. These things are going on between the handmaidens that he's forced to go into because of his 2 wives. That's not a blessing at all. He's dealing with 4 women, and all of them have children by him. And all these boys, they are very young. And Jacob is still dealing with his uncle Laban. And Jacob has to work his own flocks, his uncle Laban's flocks, and he still got to raise these boys. So I got news for you. Jacob is busy, but all it is going to work for his advantage, because God's going to cause this rivalry between Rachel and Leah to come to what? Benefit Jacob in a very big way. So here it is. Issachar is born. And here it is, verse 19. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob a 6th son. Here is the 6th one right here. And Leah said, God has endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. Now I bet Rachel's over there scratching her head. She only had 2 sons by Jacob, and that was by her handmaiden Bella. And here it is, Leah. She done had 6 sons by Jacob. And then she also had 2 more sons by Jacob from her handmaiden. So here it is right here. Leah is continuing to be blessed. She is continuing to have more and more sons for Jacob. And I bet Rachel, she is frustrated. She is lost. She feel like now that she's losing this battle again. Remember earlier when she had those 2 boys by her handmaiden, she said, I'm back in this battle. I'm back. I'm wrestling against my sister, and I have prevailed over her. And now I bet Rachel's saying, boy, I'm losing again. How in the world what I'm going to do right now? How in the world I'm going to be able to beat my sister now? But watch what happens right here, because we're going to see what happened with Rachel. Now watch this right here. We hadn't gotten there yet, but we're getting there, because Rachel is going to be blessed. Watch this right here. And Leah said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. This is one of the other 12 tribes of Israel. And afterward, Leah, she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah. Now, Dinah is the first daughter we see of Jacob. So Jacob here, he has 6 boys from Leah, 2 more boys up here from Rachel. And then I think he had 2 boys from Rachel handmaiden, and then 2 boys from Leah handmaiden. And right here, he has a daughter. So let's see, that's 6, 7, 8, 9. I think he had 9 or maybe 10 boys and 1 daughter. So man, he is really busy. We're going to count that in a little bit, because we have to wait, because Rachel is getting ready to have a child. Watch this right here. And this is verse 22. And God remembered Rachel. Look at that. God remembered Rachel. It wasn't the mandrakes that opened up Rachel's room. That's what Rachel was thinking. She need these mandrakes in order to be fertile for her husband. She need these mandrakes to intensify the intimacy between her and Jacob. But that's not what the Bible says. The Bible said God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened unto her. God listened to Rachel's prayer, and look what right here, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God had taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. Rachel had finally had a son by Jacob, and she called his name Joseph. And we're going to see the story of Joseph, and what a remarkable man Joseph is going to be. He is going to save the world, the known world at that time. You know, Joseph going to end up in Egypt as a slave, and then he's going to become the governor of Egypt. He would be the savior of the world at that time, right? And so Joseph is born from Rachel, right? And that's something, Rachel's first son. Then guess what she said? She called his name. He will have another son, and his name will be Benjamin. But Benjamin is going to be, you know, a problematic birth for Rachel. That when Benjamin is born, because this complication of pregnancy that Rachel's going to go through, you know, through the birth of Benjamin, that when Benjamin is born, Rachel is going to die giving birth to him. But yes, she indeed will have another son, and his name will be Benjamin. And look right here, I want to repeat that again. Rachel, the love of Jacob's life, his wife, he loves Rachel. He worked 14 years for Rachel. He spent all his time with Rachel. And guess what? He now has a son, and this son is named Joseph, and he is by his love of his life, his wife, Rachel. Now, Jacob is going to make some more mistakes with Joseph. OK, I don't want to really talk too much about it right now, but he's going to love Joseph so much that it's going to put Joseph in slavery, because those other boys is not going to have, you know, this Joseph being over them, because that's what Jacob's going to do. He loved Joseph so much that he's going to put Joseph, the youngest of all his brothers, in charge. And they're not going to like that. They're going to retaliate against that. And poor Jacob, he should have never did that at all. You think that Jacob would have learned by now not to have all this favoritism, but he haven't. But that's going to end up taking Joseph from him. And Joseph's going to end up being sold into slavery by his brothers, these boys of Leah. He's going to end up being sold in slavery by his older brothers. And then he's going to be in the land of Egypt for a very long time. And old Joseph is going to be deceived, because he's going to think that Jacob's going to be deceived, because he's going to think that Joseph has died, right? Because after all, that's what his son's going to tell him. Well, some wild animal has killed Joseph. And poor Jacob, he's not going to take that well at all. Now, here it is right here. And it came to pass when Rachel bare Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go into my own place, into my country. Now, this is interesting, right? Here it is that Jacob had all these sons. Now he had 6 children and a daughter, 6 boys and a daughter by Leah. He also had 2 sons by Rachel's handmaiden Bella. And then Jacob got another wife, the handmaiden of Leah, and he had children by her. And look what it says right here. As soon as Rachel had a child, and she named him Joseph, as soon as Joseph was born, as soon as Rachel had a child for Jacob, Jacob is ready to go now. That's very interesting. Jacob saying, hey, I'm out of here. I think Jacob feel like that Joseph is going to be, his pride and joy. Joseph's going to be his right-hand man. He don't want Joseph at all to be around. Nothing like this. It's a situation between him and Laban, his uncle Laban. So what does Jacob does? As soon as Joseph is born, what do Jacob do? He goes to his uncle Laban, and what he says, I'm out of here. Give me my stuff. I'm going to leave. And you think Uncle Laban just going to let him leave? Nothing doing. Uncle Laban is going to try to trap Jacob. I'm sorry. He's going to trap Jacob so that Jacob couldn't leave. Now, guess what's going to happen? Jacob is not going to leave. Jacob's going to escape his uncle Laban. Now, here it is right here. Now, I want to read that verse 25 again. And it came to pass when Rachel bare Joseph. See, soon as Joseph was born, now Jacob is feeling like it's time for him to leave. This is his, threshold. This is his point where he knows it's time to go. So that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go into my own place to my country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. Now, there's a lot of tension between Jacob and Laban, his uncle Laban. There's a lot of bitterness and tension between them two. Matter of fact, we're going to see that Jacob has to escape, and we're going to see Laban wants to kill Jacob for escaping, right? And so there's a lot of tension, because look what Jacob says right here. Give me my wives and my children. This is not, have a good time. I enjoyed you being here for 20 years. Jacob said, no, you give me my wives and my children. I'm getting out of here. I don't want to have nothing else to do with you. I want to go to my country and I want to raise my children there. But guess what? You think Laban's going to have that? Nothing doing. Laban is going to retaliate against Jacob. But Laban is real smooth. He's going to try that old trick he tried. But Jacob is not going to fall for that trick that he fell for 20 years ago when he first entered into the house of his uncle Laban. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, I have found favor in thy eyes. Tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. Well, that is true. The Lord did bless old Laban for Jacob's sake. Jacob was really a great blessing for Laban. And that's why Laban is not going to let Jacob go. Laban knows that God has blessed him for the sake of Jacob. Uncle Laban knows that, you see. And so he don't want Jacob to go anyway. But look how smooth he is. Remember in the previous episode how he talked to Jacob? He talked in a very smooth, casual way, trying to convince Jacob that he's this wonderful, nice person. Then Jacob felt for that old trick in the beginning. When he first met his uncle Laban, he felt for that old trick. And here it is, Laban trying that trick again. Look what Laban says right here. I pray thee, haven't I found grace in thy sight? Look what Laban said. He is trying to do everything he can to keep Jacob from leaving. Haven't I found favor in thy eyes? Stay, don't leave. Look what Laban says. Stay, don't leave. Tarry with me for a while. I have learned by experience, right, that the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. Man, let me tell you, Laban is a real smooth character. He knows how to trick people. He knows how to say the right words. But I got news for you. Guess what Laban says right here? He said he learned by experience. And guess what? Jacob also learned by experience. And Jacob learned that he cannot trust Laban. Jacob learned he has to get out of the household of Laban now, because now that Joseph is born, he do not want Joseph to be influenced at all by living in the household of his uncle Laban. And so we're going to see that Jacob is going to have to escape, because his uncle Laban is not about to let him just walk away with that blessing. So look at verse 28. We're going to see this tension builds, and it's going to intensify between Laban and Jacob. Now this battle between Rachel and Leah, this rivalry between these two sisters and these two wives has dissipated. And now we're going to start focusing now more on Jacob. So let's get started on verse 28. And here it is. And he said, appoint me my wages and I will give it. Now, this is what Uncle Laban's saying. This is the same old trick that Laban played with Jacob. And Jacob is not going to fall for this trick at all. Jacob knows that his uncle Laban is going to deceive him, trick him, turn his wages against him, make him work for free, use him as a free servant, pretty much putting him in slavery. Poor old Jacob, man, he has learned a lot from being around Uncle Laban. And here's Laban, he's trying this old trick again. Look what Laban says. Remember, he said, haven't I found favor in your sight? Please don't leave. Stay a while. I've learned from experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. And Jacob is not hearing none of that garbage. He don't want to hear it at all, because guess what? Jacob learned a lot of experience too. He got a lot of experience also by his what? By his uncle Laban. Now here it is right here. Look what Uncle Laban says again. This is Jacob, Uncle Laban, and verse 28. I want to read it one more time. And Uncle Laban said, appoint me thy wages and I will give it. Old Jacob heard that before, didn't he? Uncle Laban told Jacob when Jacob first got there, appoint me your wages and I'll give it to you. And here it is 20 years later. Guess what? Jacob didn't get a thing. He only got a lot of boys, a lot of wives, and a daughter, a whole lot of what? Problems. That's all Jacob got in these last 20 years. And Jacob is going to make it known to Uncle Laban, there's no way I'm falling for this trick again. No way, not any day. Here it is, verse 29. And he said, and Jacob said to him, thou knowest how have I served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. Now, Jacob is arguing. He's not listening to this soft talk and this subtle talk, and his uncle Laban is placating him. Jacob is not listening to that at all. Jacob is raising his voice at this point. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. Jacob said, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have all these cattle. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be this blessed. And you know my service to you. You know it. Now here it is. Uncle Laban is going to respond, but not respond yet. But first, verse 30, for it was little which thou hast before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude, and the Lord has blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? Jacob had provided for who? Well, his uncle Laban's house. But Jacob has a big house now. He have all these boys. He has 3 wives. He has handmaidens, and he also has a daughter. And guess what? Jacob is ready to leave. He has a huge family, and he's saying, listen, I've been taking care of you. I've been blessing you, and now I'm ready to take care of my own. I want to take care of my own house. I want to get out of here. Now I want to read that again, verse 29. And Jacob said to him, thou knowest how I served thee, and how thy cattle was with me, for it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude, and the Lord has blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? Jacob, remember, I done all these things for you, and you was blessed in a mighty way. When in the world are you going to let me leave so I can take care of my own family? When are you going to let me leave so I can provide for my own house? That's what Jacob is saying. And he's not saying this in a nice way now. They're not sitting around drinking some coffee and just talking with mutual respect for each other. That's not happening at all. As a matter of fact, I can see Laban right now starting to get a little bit hostile towards Jacob. But here it is right here, verse 31. And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do these things for me, I will again feed and keep thy flocks. You see, Jacob has learned a lot. You see, he knows not to trust Uncle Laban. He knows Uncle Laban is a better skillful deceiver than Jacob would ever be. Uncle Laban is a masterful manipulator. Uncle Laban is a trickster if there ever was one. And Jacob knows this. Now, remember when Jacob first met his uncle, Jacob was inexperienced. Remember I talked about that, how inexperienced, how green. Jacob was a rookie. But Jacob is a well-experienced man now. And I'm going to tell you right now, the wives of here brought him a lot of experience. Those little kids running around, they brought Jacob some experience with patience. And now his uncle Laban has taught him a lot about life. And Jacob can see clearly that don't believe anything that Uncle Laban says. I want to read that one more time. And he said, Uncle Laban said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, you shall not give me nothing. I don't want nothing from you. Because the last time I took something from you, I done ended up with 3 wives, 12 kids, and working for free for 20 years. Look what Jacob said. If thou wouldst do this for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. You see? Now, watch this right here. Now, this is what Jacob is saying right here. He said, I don't want you to give me anything. But if you just go ahead and just let me go, let me mind my own business, let me take care of my own family, then I will again feed and keep your flocks. Now watch here, verse 32. I will pass through all thy flocks today, removing from thence all the speckled and the spotted cattle and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats, and for such shall be my hire. Now Jacob said, I'm ready to get paid for all this work that I've done for you for 20 years and never got any pay. Just a lot of problems from you. And my wives, that's what Jacob is saying, you see, because those wives is Laban's daughters, you see. So Jacob is saying, I'm ready to get paid. I need some back pay. I need 20 years of back pay. And Jacob is saying, this is how I want you to pay me. He said, listen, I want to leave. I want to take care of my own family. And I want to get as far away from here. I want to go back to my old country. He's never going to go back to his old country, by the way. But that's what he's saying. And he's saying, this is how I want you to pay me. I will pass through all thy flocks. Now I'm going to pass through all your flocks, Laban, right? And remove from this all the speckled and the spotted cattle. He said, I'm going to separate the speckled and the spotted cattle from the good cattle or the unspotted cattle, right? And all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. He said, these going to be mine. When I separate them, and the brown cattle and the spotted cattle and the spotted goats, that's going to be mine. That's going to be my hire. Now Jacob is being very generous. Notice what Jacob is doing. He's taking the spotted, right? And he's taking the cattle and the spotted goats and the spotted sheep and the spotted cattle. He's taking what we call the least of the flocks, not the best of the flocks, not the thoroughbreds of the flocks. He's going to give those good flocks to his uncle Jacob, his uncle Laban. And Jacob is going to take the lesser flocks, not in numbers, but a lesser when it comes to mating and ability and purity and all of that. He's going to take the spotted flocks and the goats. Now watch this right here. Jacob is showing some kind of prophecy, because I want to look at this again and I want to take my time and I'm going to see can I make some sense out of this verse 32, because I see some spiritual lessons right now in verse 32. And let's look at it again. And I will pass through all thy flocks today, removing thence all the speckle and the spotted cattle, and all the brown and the cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckle among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. Right? Now here's the Lord Jesus, right? He comes from the tribe of Jacob. He actually comes from the tribe of Jacob, because Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob's going to have a son by Leah, and Leah named him Judah, and Judah would be the tribe of Judah where Jesus Christ himself come from. Now, here it is right here. I want to see if we can make a spiritual sense out of this, because it's here. I will pass by all thy flocks. Here it is Christ. I'm going to pass by all the people of God and the people that is not of God, and remove, now listen, by flock today, and remove from this all the speckled and the spotted cattle. I'm going to separate these two here, right? And all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. Now, we see Christ, he came. And what did Christ say? He did not come for the what? For the well, but he came for the sick. He said, the well need not a physician, but the sick. Well, good people that is well and not sick, they don't need no physician at all. But he that is sick, he the one needs a physician. And Jesus Christ is called the great physician, right? But what did Jesus does? He's going to come, and he's going to come for the sick, the spotted, right? The ones that was cast out, the ones that was looked down on, the ones that wasn't, quote unquote, the good people, or the people that the scribes and the Pharisees says was not worthy. That's unfortunately, but Jesus came for those people. And here it is a spiritual sense right here, where Jacob is saying the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and take the spotted ones, and I'm going to let you have the good ones. Okay. And the spotted one's going to be my hire. Christ said, these one here, they spotted, because they should be without spot and blemish, but Christ is going to cause them to be clean, and they're going to be for me. They're going to be my children, right? They're going to be my people, right? So we kind of see that right there. I'm hoping I would make some sense out of that. But I seen this in verse 32, where Jacob is saying, and I also seen this in the life of Jesus Christ, how he came for the what? For the spots and the blemish, so they can be cleansed. The spot and the blemish are the sins of the people. Now watch this right here. Verse 33. So shall my righteousness answer for me in the time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face, everyone that is not speckled and spotted among, everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. Now here it is. Here's Jacob. He says something again that's very powerful. Okay, look what he says right here. So shall my righteousness answer for me. What did Jesus Christ say to the scribes and the Pharisees? He said, my righteousness will answer for me. It will speak for itself. My Father bear witness of me. Look what Jacob said. My righteousness will answer for me in the time to come. And here it is Christ, when he rose up on the third day, and all power and glory was given unto him, right? That time has came, that his righteousness, everything that Christ did on the earth, has spoken for him. What did his disciples say? Everything he said was true. Everything he said was true. And here it is. Jacob is giving us a foreshadow right here. Look what Jacob says again. So shall my righteousness answer for me in the time to come. Now, let that also be a lesson for us. We don't have to prove anything to anybody. We don't have to keep here sitting arguing with these people. You know my work. That's what Jacob said. You know my work. You know how I worked all these years for you with no pay. You know all the things I've done. You know that you was blessed because of me. You know when I came here, you had nothing, and now you're rich. You know all these things. And you know because of my righteousness, because I kept the deal. I did not back out of the deal. I did. I was a man of my word. I said I would work 7 years for your daughter, Rachel, and I did. And you switched her and gave me your daughter, Leah. And then I worked 7 more years, like I said, for your daughter, Rachel, and you finally gave her to me. And then I worked all these other years, right? And all you did was change my wages. All you did was switch. All you did was take it from me. And I didn't end up with nothing but a lot of wives and a lot of boys and a daughter. That's all I ended up with. And Jacob said, I didn't do you no wrong at all. I was a man of my word, and I did everything I said I was going to do. And I took care of your flocks and your household. You know my righteousness for me in the time to come. You know I was a good man, and I never betrayed you, and I always done right by you. So Jacob is giving old Uncle Laban a tongue lashing right here. Look what he says right here. When it comes to, look what he said. When it shall come for my hire before thy face. He said, now I want my money. Okay. In other words, I want what you owe me. And when it comes for the hire before my face, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Uncle. This is what I'm going to do. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and the brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. Now, he said, listen, everyone that's not speckled and not spotted, and all the ones that are brown among the goats and sheep, if they don't meet those criteria, then I stole them from you. You know I'm a righteous man. You know I don't steal. You know I've been treating you right. You know I'm a man of my words. You know I never betrayed you. I never turned on you. So if any cattle that don't meet these criteria, then I stole them, and then you can hold me in contempt, right? But Jacob is not a thief at all. And Jacob is letting his uncle know, I'm not a thief. This is what is righteously mine, right? And if you see any one of these cattle, right, that is don't meet this criteria, then I stole them from you. So I'm letting you know, I'm giving you the good part. I take this. I take it. Same thing Abraham did. He told Lot, he said, you know, just pick all the land you want. You know, you can go to the right, or you can go to the right, the left, the front or the back, north, south, east, or west. And Lot put the good land. Lot took his sheep and he chose the good land. Abraham gave him that opportunity, and Abraham took the lesser part of the land that wasn't that good, the land that wasn't that fertile, the land that wasn't that green. And we seeing his grandson Jacob doing the same thing right here. We seeing Jacob saying, hey, you know, if you find any of these flocks in here that don't meet this criteria, then I stole them from you. And I got news for you. You know my righteousness. I'm not a thief at all. Jacob is making an argument with his uncle Laban that it's time for me to go. This right here is my hire. I'm going to take the lesser of the flocks. That's the least that you owe me. That's what Jacob is saying. Here it is right here. Verse 34. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Now, what Laban is going to do is he's going to go, and he knows Jacob is experienced now. He's looking at Jacob fighting back at him. He's looking at Jacob is ready to leave. And he looked at Jacob is determined to not fall for these old tricks that Laban has played on him for the last 20 years. Now, Uncle Laban knows that these tricks are not working anymore on his nephew, Jacob. So Laban is going to walk away from this argument. He's going to walk away from this tension between him and Jacob. And he's going to go and seek, and he come up with a new plan of how to trick Jacob. You think Laban just going to walk away and say, okay, whatever you say, Jacob, whatever you say, we'll go ahead and do it your way. He's not going to do that. He's going to recoup. He's going to figure out now how he's going to trick Jacob in a new way that Jacob don't know anything about. So I'm sure right now that Uncle Laban getting all his men together, and they can say, listen, Jacob trying to leave. What can we do? Everything I tried to get him to stay, everything I tried before, he's not falling for that garbage anymore. We're going to have to come up with some new tricks of what we got to do to get Jacob to stay, because they know that the second that Jacob leave, Jacob is going to take the blessings with him. What blessing? What a blessing of the Lord. Now, right here, look. And Laban said, behold, might be according to thy word. What Uncle Laban is saying is, okay, well, whatever you say, we'll do that. Well, that's not what's going to happen, because Laban is going to retaliate. He just got to get his act together and come up with a new way to deceive Jacob. Now, right here, verse 35, And he removed that day the he goats that were ring-striped and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. Now, here Jacob, remember I told y'all earlier, he was dealing with these boys, but he also had to raise these boys and teach these boys how to deal with sheep. And they're going to know how to do that real good when they get older. But right now they're very, very young boys. And Jacob has to raise these boys and teach these boys how to work in the field. While his wives are doing this rivalry between them two and their handmaiden, Jacob's hands were full with his uncle Laban and these boys. And remember I told you, he had his hand full with these boys. And look, sure enough, we see Jacob now, he's separating these sheeps, he goats and she goats and brown cows, brown cattle, and some cattle that had white in them. He's separating them now, and he's going to give them to his boys to tend to. So I want to read that one more time. This is the discussion that Jacob had with his uncle Laban, what he's going to do. Uncle Laban said, go ahead and do it. Whatever it be, your word, go according to your word. Cause of Jacob really much gave him a tongue lashing. And Laban fit to go and recoup and figure out how to get back at Jacob. But in the meantime, Jacob in verse 35, he removed that day the goats that were ring-starched and spotted, and all the she goats and that were speckled and spotted, and every one that he had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. And he said, set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Now, Jacob, because these flocks was a lot, it was a huge amount of cattle, there has to be a 3-day journey between the two. But so they had enough room to graze, right? But look what it says right here. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, right? And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. Now, Jacob handed over his flocks, right, to his boys, right? And he told them, you go way on over here, 3 days away, and then I'm going to go ahead and take care of Uncle Laban, my Uncle Laban flocks. And so we see here that Jacob, right, is keeping his word again with his Uncle Laban. He did exactly what he said he's going to do, but Jacob is getting his hire. Basically what he's doing, and he's telling his boy, this is going to be ours. You take them way on over there. I want you to feed them. I'm going to stay over here with my Uncle Laban. I'm going to continue to feed his flock until I get up out of here. Now, here it is right here. Now, and Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and piled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutter, in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, and they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle, ring-striped, speckled, and spotted. Now, old Jacob is well experienced. He's a shepherd indeed, right? And he'd been doing this for 20 years. Now he's going to increase his flocks and cattle by doing this trick right here. I'm sure that old Uncle Laban don't know anything about, but I bet you one thing that Jacob knows all about it, because Jacob is a blessed man. His eyes is open. And what Jacob's going to do is he's going to cause his hire, the little bit that he did get from his uncle, he's going to cause that to grow much, much, much more. And this is how he did. And Jacob took rods of the green poplar and the hazel and the chestnut tree. So Jacob go to this tree, and he take these rods. These are long rods. We can say branches if you want to say that. But he take this from the chestnut tree. Now look what he does right here. And when he put it and peeled white strips in them and made the white appear, which was in the rod. So here it is. He got this branch from the chestnut tree, right? And the green chestnut tree. Now and they're shaped like a rod. So he wanted to be kind of straight as it can be. Then he peeled it so that white could show. You know how you just peeling an orange or peeling an apple so that the white would show. That's what Jacob's doing. He peeling it so that the white would show. Then look what he did. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters in the water trough. So now he done peeled these rods. Now the white is showing, right? Just like peeling an apple and the white is showing. And he took this long rod, right? Or this long branch, and he set it into the water trough, right? Now, when he put it in the water trough, this rod is going to release some chemicals that will cause the what? Well, cause his cattle to be more fertile, because they're going to come and drink from this water trough that the rod is in. And this rod that is now white that came from this chestnut tree, well, it's going to be sitting in the water. And I'm sure it's set in the water for a while. And then the liquids are whatever is coming out of this rod, some kind of chemicals that's coming out of this rod, and it's going into the water. And now he's going to cause his cattle to come and drink from this water trough, right? Then the flocks came to drink that they should conceive when they what? Came to drink. So now Jacob's a real smart man, very wise. He's going to increase his flock because he's separating it right now from his uncle Laban's flock. He said, this is yours. You can have all that good stuff. I want to go ahead and start my own new life with my wives and my children. And so now he's going to need more flocks. And so what did Jacob do? He caused his flocks to be more fertile by using this trick right here. And it's really not a trick because it actually worked. It's green poplar from a hazel and chestnut tree. He took a long branch, he peeled it and make it shaped like a rod. He set them in a water trough. He told his cattle where he brought his cattle to drink from this water trough. And now they became fertile. And the flocks conceived before the rods and brought forth cattle, ring strakes, speckled and spotted. Old Jacob is smarter than old Laban led him out to be. Jacob has caused his flocks to increase by putting this rod in the water. Now they conceive. Now here it is, verse 40. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring strakes and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves and put them not into Laban's cattle, into his uncle Laban's cattle. So here is Jacob, right? He already done played this. He already did this routine that actually worked, right? And he caused his flocks to what? Well, he called his flocks to conceive. And now his flocks conceiving, he's going to make sure that they don't get mixed up at all with his uncle Laban, so there will be no issue between them two, because he already told his uncle Laban, I'm going to take my flocks over here. I'm going to get the spotted and the speckled and the reach that that's going to be mine. You're going to have these nice, beautiful brown, white cattle. Those are yours. Now Jacob took those spotted and speckled and ring straight cattle and caused them to conceive and produce more. And he made sure that he separated what? Well, he made sure he separated his cattle from his uncle Laban's cattle. Now, verse 41, and it came to pass, whosoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rod before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so that the feeblers of the Labans and the strongers of Jacob. And the man increased exceedingly and had much cattle and manservants and maidservants and menservants, camels and asses. Now, Jacob is a master at shepherding at this point. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's an expert. He has lots of experience. Look what he did right here. He took the least of the of the cattle, and he gave his uncle Laban the best of the cattle, but he took the least of the cattle and caused them to what? Conceive. And when they conceived, they brought more pure cattle, right? And those were the stronger ones. Look what he did right here. And it came to pass, whosoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. Now, you remember those rods he got from the chestnut tree, right? The stronger cattle that was able to conceive and did conceive, he caused them to conceive even more, right? And then the feeble ones right here. But when the cattle that was feeble, these are the ones that did not conceive, even though they were drinking from this trough that Jacob put the rod in, they were drinking from it, they still did conceive. But he put them not in, so the feebler was Laban's and the stronger was Jacob. Jacob is playing the trick on Laban. But guess what? This is Jacob, and to me, this is not a trick. This is Jacob's right to do this. Right? Jacob has the right to do this because, first of all, his uncle Laban don't know anything about this. Second of all, Jacob is experienced. And third of all, Uncle Laban owes Jacob a lot, and Jacob is going to get rightfully what belongs to him. So I won't say that he's tricking his Uncle Laban. It does sound like that he's tricking his Uncle Laban, but he actually not. He's just being a good shepherd here. Look what he does. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. Okay, they were feeble. They're not going to be able to conceive. He did not let them go and drink from the water trough at all because he already tried that. Didn't work. So now he's just going to give those feeble cattle to who? Well, he's going to give those feeble cattle to his Uncle Laban because they cannot conceive. And he's going to keep the stronger one that is drinking from this rod that's in the water trough. He's going to get those stronger ones and he's going to keep them for himself. Right? So here it is. So the feeble was Laban's and the stronger one was Jacob. He's going to keep the stronger cattle for himself. And the man Jacob increased exceedingly and had much cattle and maidservants and men servants and camels and asses. Thank you for watching. Man, this is a great story. Jacob is finally grown up. Now we have left this rivalry between his wives. We move back into the life of Jacob. And now when we get on chapter 31, Jacob is getting ready to leave once and for all. But guess what? He's going to have to fight his way out of his uncle Laban's house.